All right, I know I'm late to the party as usual, but here we are nonetheless to talk about the hot mess that is Velma. Okay, so for anyone who may not know, Velma is a character from a show called Scooby-Doo, which is about four friends who solve mysteries in their hometown. I wasn't surprised when they chose Velma to be the person who they were going to make like an origin story for. Aside from Shaggy and Scooby, she is probably the only other one who could be remotely interesting. Daphne and Fred have always just kind of seemed very bland to me, very one note. Not that someone could take them, and make them better. It's just that Velma, she's always been the smart, interesting one. Like she would be the tech person to the hero if this was like some CW show or something. So when I first heard that they were even making a new Scooby-Doo, I honestly really didn't pay it much mind. Because the main thing that I was hearing was just about people being upset about Mindy Kaling and changing Velma's race, which, I wasn't surprised at all. In my personal opinion, I don't see any issue with changing the race of most fictional characters, especially when it's something as simple as, a high school girl who solves mystery with her friends. Whether you're black, white, Mexican, Asian, Indian, whatever, that could be played by anyone. So that argument of people being upset, it just really falls on deaf ears, because step back and think for a moment of all the decades that minorities have been watching shows and movies that is nothing but white people, and we still like them, we still enjoy them. So I don't see why certain people are just up in arms about seeing certain things with minorities. However, okay, there is a however here, or a but, if you will. All right. It does become an issue when you use that race change for the sole purpose of shitting on another race. See, what Mindy Kaling would have people believe is that the people who are not liking the show are just basically racist, anti-progression, anti-woke people that hate Velma because, she isn't white, or because things aren't exactly how they were in the original Scooby-Doo, which can be made evident here in this little, the writers thought they were being so clever here.
Dear HBO Max, I just learned you intend to make a genre-bending comedic origin story of Judy Jetson. When I heard this new version of Judy Jetson wouldn't be boy crazy, if there is one thing the internet agrees on, it's that you should never change anything ever. I hope you die. Sincerely, Velma. Well, at least Judy's still white.
And sure, I'll give it to them. There are some of those people who don't like Velma for those reasons. All right. But that has not stopped other shows from succeeding who have changed the race, or, added a bunch of multi-race, people into things. Bridgerton is a prime example. That was a very popular show, has multiple, races in positions that in movies are normally held by only white people. Look at The Last of Us right now. All right. The main character from that in the video game is originally white, and he in the show is played by Pedro Pascal, who is actually Chilean. So race cannot be the sole reason people dislike the show. Based off the first episode alone, I'm going to go over what I believe are the main three reasons people hate Velma. Whoever created Velma should have waited and watched Wednesday before making this show, because Wednesday on Netflix did a great job of taking established characters that people know and love and was able to put them in a modern setting and still keep the core of what it is that people loved about the Addams family. Even though we're only focusing on, one particular member, it's still the same. Like, we still like, yes, that is the Addams family. This is the world that we know and love, from the people who originally watched it when it was just black and white to, people like myself who watched the movies in the 90s. It all the way through, those things kept the core, and just all that they did was just take these people and just plop them into, modern times, with modern technology and modern problems and things like that. But they have always still been this weird, odd, morbid, whatever you want to call them, type of family. And that's where, Wednesday got it right, and where Velma got it wrong. So I believe that the creators of Velma changed the characters too much. And that's a big issue because, again, you are making a origin story based off characters that people know. And again, Scooby-Doo gang is already in high school. Velma starts off in high school. So these characters shouldn't be too far off of the ones that, we know. And again, it is a prequel, a reboot, whatever. So, they're going to have leeway to, make the characters how they want. But in that same thought, you can't take it too far. And again, I think that's what they did. So we're going to go over the main characters from the least problematic change to the worst. All right. So first up is Norville. All right. He is voiced by Sam Richardson. And Norville is the Shaggy character. And this is something that I just did not understand. Why was Shaggy the only one given a complete name change? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, so Norville is black and he doesn't smoke weed on this show. Shaggy is known for being a pothead and having munchies 24/7. Even though they don't explicitly say that he smokes, we all understand that, he smokes weed. So I think that them making Norville, all anti-drug in this show is a direct result of them making his character black. All right. I can just see some writer in that room saying, "Oh, we can't perpetuate the stereotype of black people smoking weed." Yeah, you can, because lots of black people smoke weed. Lots of people in general smoke weed. So I don't see an issue other than some overly woke person wrote this. All right. They're just giving themselves a pat on the back. Like, look at us helping the blacks. They've taken away so much of what made, Shaggy an iconic character, and they really, like, he's not Shaggy at all. Like, they're not in the name, not in the way that he acts, nothing. All right. All they did, they took this character. I guess that's why they gave him a new name. They're like, he's nothing like Shaggy. So we're going to call him Norville, and we're just going to reduce him to, just being the nice friend who's in love with the main character. Now we are on to Fred. All right. And Fred is voiced by Mr. Glenn Howerton, who is from the most amazing show ever created, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. All right. Now, Fred is the writers hating on white men. I'm not even joking. It is as simple as that. Fred is a handsome, rich, shallow, vain, dismissive guy with a small penis. All right, which we will get into later, that we know that a high schooler has a small penis. All right. It's like the writers took every negative stereotype about rich white men and put it onto Fred, which ironically made him the only real fleshed out character. Everything he says or does, is, because of his upbringing and the daddy issues that he has. His actions make sense. The jokes that come from him make sense. Like, Fred is the only character who genuinely made me laugh with, the things that he would say and do, because they were true to what his character and personality was, because we got what it was supposed to be. All right, next up, we're going to talk about Daphne, who is voiced by Constance Wu. And you'll most likely recognize Constance as the main chick from Crazy Rich Asians. And so, yeah, Daphne is apparently Asian this time around, but you would not be able to tell that from looking at her. And look, I know there's many types of ways Asians can look, but I don't think a redheaded white woman is one of them. I'm sorry. All right, that's what she looks like. Daphne literally has to tell us she's Asian for us to know she's Asian, because they know that everyone would just assume that she's white. All right, it's not my fault. They drew her, not me. All right, so Daphne is nothing but the hot popular girl. All right, she's dating Fred because he's, the hottest guy in school. But, other than that, there's not much else. She has no other personality trait. I think the writers thought that, just by making her, Asian, and that she's adopted by a mixed race lesbian couple would make her interesting. And let me tell you, it's not enough. No one cares about any of those things, right? Who is Daphne? Like, who is she? Like, why do we care whether she's in the Scooby-Doo gang or not, right? If this is going to be an origin story, like, let us know who Daphne is, not the things that surround Daphne. All right, so we've arrived at the title character, Velma, voiced by Mindy Kaling. So Mindy Kaling is most known for her role as Kelly Kapoor on the US version of The Office. So Velma is the biggest character problem because she is the main character we follow and should be rooting for, but we don't, like, at all. Now, I'll say, non-likable characters can make a show work. It's Always Sunny Philadelphia is a prime example. Those characters are horrible people, yet they're likable and even relatable enough for people to want to, follow them on their shenanigans. Velma, on the other hand, does no such thing. She isn't shown to be exceptionally smart or knowledgeable. She's actually really prejudiced against straight white people. Like, literally all her jokes revolve around insulting white people or some stupid meta humor. She's annoying and all she does is complain and insult everyone. Like, I'm not even joking. I don't think there's one person other than Norville that she comes into contact with that she doesn't insult. And even later in the first episode, she's rude to Norville, but she just doesn't insult him the way that she does every single other person that she talks to. And all her jokes are like either woke or meta jokes, and she has nothing original to say. She's just annoying. Honestly, she's really just annoying. Okay, next up is our boy Scooby-Doo. Oh, wait, there's no Scooby-Doo. I get that this is Velma's origin story. However, they should have had Scooby-Doo somewhere in the picture in this show, since you have everyone else, even though Shaggy's not really Shaggy, but you have Norville in his place. And Scooby could have easily have just been a pet of Norville's that could have been around, because the show is called Scooby-Doo. The dog is Scooby-Doo. He should have been in here. All right, he should have been in here somewhere. That's all I got to say about that. Look, I'm not going to go too far into this because I covered pretty much everything about Velma, I think, in the previous segment. But her being unlikable is a huge problem because she is the title character. All right, she is the character that we follow. And there is nothing about her that makes you want to continue to follow her. All right, she's nothing but a woke, grumpy teenager who feels the world owes her something. There's nothing about her that makes me say, oh my God, let me go see what Velma's going to get into this time. No, none of that. And it's a problem. So look, whenever a studio or whatever decides that they're going to, make a reboot or do a spinoff or something that's very well known, there's always going to be certain expectations of, certain things being similar to what it's from, yet there's, always going to be something new to be added, or else, why else reboot it or, do this spinoff. I'm going to go back to Wednesday for a second, because Wednesday and Velma are very similar in, their setup, I guess you can say. When it comes to Wednesday, we got a familiar character, which is Wednesday Addams. She's, from an ensemble cast, normally the Addams Family. All right, we got a familiar setting with a school and it being, for gifted and different people. We've seen that before. And it even has a similar plot. There's a murder afoot and, Wednesday has to solve it. And, somehow her family's involved, yada, yada, yada. And what makes Wednesday different from the ensemble she came from is, the characters that populate the world and the way that they wrote Wednesday to fit into modern times, right? While still keeping the core of what it is that people really enjoyed about Wednesday Addams, the character. Velma did not do this. All right, so look at this. So Velma, all right, also comes from an ensemble, the Scooby-Doo gang. All right, the show does give us a familiar setting, small town, high school life. They gave us a familiar character from that ensemble, which is Velma. All right, and there's a very similar plot. There's a murder. But instead of, involving herself like Wednesday did, Velma just kind of gets thrown into it against her will. However, the writers did not keep the core of what it is that people liked about Velma in the first place. I mean, the only thing is she definitely fits into modern times with, how woke she is.
Kill Brenda just because she photographed him in the bathroom.
Why wouldn't he? If I were a rich white dude, I'd kill everybody just to get away with it.
So the issue with the writing in this show is that there's like 20% of exposition writing, 50% of like meta and racist jokes, and then about 30% you can say is the actual story going on. And like 20 seconds in, Velma is already like, oh, this is an origin story, and origin stories are typically about handsome men, blah, 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 blah. Like, come on. Why not just tell us the story of Velma? Why are there so many meta and self-aware jokes? There's never an opportunity to really immerse yourself into this show. When it comes to writing in general, the number one rule is to show, not tell. Well, I would say in screenwriting, like in a book, there's definitely a lot of showing and telling going on. And so really what that means is don't have a character say Velma is a weird outcast. Show us that she is. Show us no one wants to hang out with her. Show us that Velma and Daphne used to be friends. It's high school, for crying out loud. It really shouldn't be that hard to show the social dynamics of these characters. Another issue I see in the writing for this show is that it feels like the dialogue for the actual story came second and setup for lazy jokes came first. Characters are either making a dig at society, a dig at rich white men, or doing that, well, if this was a TV show, blah, blah, blah type of thing that happens. Hence why I say only about 30% of it is about the actual story. If this show is supposed to be a origin to how the mystery team started, then why is no one but Velma and kinda not Shaggy dealing with the mystery? I don't get that. Why did they make Fred a suspect when we all know it can't be him? Why? Like, that is what that's all I kept asking myself while I was watching this. Like, why is this happening? Why is that happening? What? All in all, I don't see that this show can be saved. The only good thing about it is the animation, so I'll give credit where it's due. If they get a second season, and I feel like they will just because of all the hate watching that's been going on, they would need to use it as a soft reboot and really focus on telling a story and not talking to the audience about problems in our society. Velma had the potential to be such a good show simply based off its premise. However, when you have writers that are more focused on making a statement than telling a story, you get garbage that is Velma.